another brief talk on my understanding of how to attract the optimal relationship in your life. This is quite a complex area. There are many different things to consider if we look at this. And one of them, of course, is a subject I've spoken about often before, which was what Jung referred to as the shadow. These are aspects of the self that we've not yet brought into the light of awareness. And there are a lot of them, and they may well control what's going on in your life. Regarding the ideal relationship, I think this is pretty well impossible if there are still parts of the self that haven't yet been recognized, because they do play a significant part in the energy that you put out and the persons you attract into your life. If, like many, not all, but many, you experienced any trauma in childhood, particularly relating to someone of the opposite sex who may have been abusive, older than you, dominating, domineering, jealous, angry, all sorts of situations can arise. Can, not always of course, but if they do, then they colour your perceptions of relationships well into your future. And here I'm speaking from personal experience. I think it's very difficult for any child to escape childhood without some trauma or another. And how that trauma then manifests in the life is certainly going to influence relationships that you might be looking for, wanting, hoping for, whatever. A lot of people online these days who talk about relationships tend to classify male and female or anything in between as something pretty well standard. And so there's certain standardized rules that belong to certain behavior patterns. And if you can understand those according to these people, then you'll be able to live a better, happier relationship. I don't think it's as simple as that, because I don't think we are all the same. I don't think we can be standardized. I think the trauma or the experiences we have when we're young create within us a pre-established pattern of behavior which may not attract the right person. So until we can heal these parts of the self, until we can come into greater understanding of who we are, I think we're always going to attract that which we transmit based upon our conditioned past. And as I say, they're all unique conditioned pasts. And so it's very difficult to categorize or standardize behavior patterns because everyone is slightly different, and they cannot, no matter how much they want, they cannot change that patterning, they cannot adapt themselves if the fundamental conditioning, the deep down conditioning, is opposed on some level to change. Now, we may want to change, and we may do lots of things, attend lots of programs, whatever, to try to change our behavior, but until we can change the fundamental programming that's running in the background, I don't think we're going to be able to change anything of any value. And so if we look at trying to attract the perfect partner, then on one level, every partner you have attracted in the past has been perfect. It's been a reflection of who you believe yourself to be, whether that's on a conscious or subconscious level. And of course, if there are parts of the self that you're still challenged by, then you're going to meet those in the partner. So I often ask during workshops that I put on, how many people remember falling in love? And people will put their hands up, maybe more than one hand if they've fallen in love more than once. And then I say, well, when you fell in love, Did the birds sing sweeter? Did the raindrops sparkle like diamonds? And every song they played on the car radio, they played just for you. The car radio might be dating me a bit, of course, but you understand what I mean, I hope. And people say, yes, they experienced all of those things. Well, what's happening? Well, I believe that when we fall in love, personality, which includes a lot of the shadow aspects of the self, takes a back seat momentarily. We are no longer seeing the world through the filter system of our conditioned past. And that allows us to see the world as it is, which is far more glorious than a conditioned past will ever notice or admit to. And so this falling in love business is a very interesting chemical phenomena which eventually will fall away, because if you haven't loved those aspects of the self, if they've just been masked by your falling in love, then they're still there running in the background. And so this is what I call the honeymoon period, while you're still in love. And then when personality comes back into the equation, when those parts of the self that you haven't yet embraced reappear, and then this is when you wake up in the morning and wonder what on earth you did when you look at your partner. Because if their personality comes back at the same time, their personality is going to reflect back to you the issues that you have yet to embrace. And vice versa, of course. Your shadow aspects will be shown to the other person, but they'll be seeing them through their own traumatic, conditioned eyes, and it will reflect back to them their own shadow. But if either of you takes that shadow seriously, personally still, then of course conflict in that relationship is inevitable. Because if you blame the other for the lack of self-love, then there's no solution, there's no answer. That relationship will end unless you've developed a very, very strong bond and you can see yourself through those difficult times. The relationship will end. And then you'll go looking for another relationship. Well, nothing has changed. Only perhaps that when you do find someone else, this is going to be the relationship from hell, because all of the aspects that you've continued to deny are accumulating and they will manifest in the partner. So you can see that if you follow this particular logic, then all of the time you're just meeting yourself on the road. And until you have fallen in love with the self, not in a narcissistic way, of course, just all aspects of the self need to be accepted and embraced, brought into the light of consciousness, and then, and only then, will you find someone, will someone be attracted to you that reflects this degree of love, which then means that the relationship has got a much, much better chance of surviving post-honeymoon period than if you were still carrying around old shadow aspects. So try to remember when you're looking for the perfect partner that whoever shows up happens to be perfect at that point in time, because it reflects back to you who you are and what you still desire, what you need, what you want. But then when the drug of the love, as Brian Ferry called it, falls away, then you're faced with personality once again. And that is an opportunity, if you take it, to embrace those aspects of self rather than continue to blame the other. And if you keep practicing this, you may go through a few relationships before you find the right one, but eventually you will. And it'll then be like, instead of 2 steps forward, 1 step back in relationship, it will be a steady, ongoing unfolding. So try to remember the part that you're playing, the energetic that you're transmitting, whether you're conscious of it or not, that is actually attracting the partner. Obviously, you've got certain criteria that you may go with, visuals perhaps, an emotion, a smile, a feeling, whatever, but it doesn't matter if the shadow is still in control of your relationships. Think about it, do what you need to do, but recognize that all relationships in their time are perfect. They're there to show you areas that you still need to embrace in yourself. In the meantime, be well, be happy, and I'll see you in the next video.